Welcome, everyone. It's Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And we're here today to answer any type of cloud computing career question and answers you may have. Perhaps you desire to become a cloud architect and get your first cloud architect job. Perhaps you desire to become a cloud engineer and you want to know how to get your first cloud engineer job. Maybe you want to be a network engineer, network architect, enterprise architect, whatever the case may be. I want to help you get cloud hired or promoted, because that's what we do here at Go Cloud Careers. For those of you that don't know me, I've been working in tech now for, over 25 years now, and I've spent more than 2 decades helping people get their first tech job or get promoted in tech, and I want to help you build your technology career. So we're here today as we come online 3 times a week, completely free, to help you build your best cloud computing career so you can get your first cloud architect job, your first cloud engineer job, etc., etc. So please feel free today to ask us as many questions as you desire, because we want to help you all getting cloud hired. But before we answer your questions, and please ask them in the chat box, I want to tell you about some wonderful free things we're doing to help you build your cloud computing careers. Today, after this boot camp, we are going to finish day 5 of our free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp, and I want you to be there. We had lots of fun in the first 4 days. I was taken down by COVID, even though I had COVID the whole time. I actually did that presentation, but I just couldn't do the 5th day due to breathing things. And now we're back, and we're going to finish it today, and it's going to be fun. Also, the cloud is nothing more than a network and a data center that's been virtualized, and I'm going to tell you right now, if people don't understand the network, they will never understand the cloud. And it's so important that you understand the network that I'm going to teach a completely free subnetting bootcamp next week and a BGP bootcamp next week. Now, here's the thing. My CCIE number is 7417. I've been in this networking space for 25 years now. I've taught networking at pretty much every major tech company you can imagine, to the engineers and architects that are there. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm here teaching you completely free. So please join us in the free subnetting and BGP workshops next week. Sign up. The link is in the description below. In addition to that, I'm going to tell you about some even more free stuff we're going to do for you. Not next week, because we've got the BGP and subnetting workshops, but the week after that, we've got a completely free AWS Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp, live and free on our YouTube channel, and it's going to be like a real classroom. We'll teach for 20 minutes. You can ask questions for 10, and then we're going to follow that the entire week, and that way we know you learn. It's not education when you just watch a video and you can't ask questions. That's not education. I want to know that you guys are great. So we're going to do it all completely free on our YouTube channel. So please sign up for the free boot camp. Now, I was out sick with COVID, and I received at least 300 "How do I get my first cloud architect job?" email requests. I'm going to tell you on Thursday this week, which is tomorrow, we're going to have our completely free, which we normally do, how to get your first cloud job webinar. Want to become a cloud architect? We'll tell you how. Want to become a cloud engineer? We'll tell you how. Even if you want, we'll talk for about an hour and answer questions for an hour. You'll come off mute, and I will literally let you ask questions, and I will answer them for the full hour. I will show you how to leverage your life experience. We will tell you what the hiring manager wants. We'll talk about what needs to be on your resume so you get those really good interviews. We will talk about how do you bypass HR when you don't have experience so you can get hired. It'll be a great time, and we're going to have lots of fun. People come from all around the world, and they send me thank you notes each week. I want to help you. So completely free. Oh, and by the way, I was out sick, so I couldn't do as many things as I was doing. So because I was out sick, we've extended our July 4th 30% off sale. So it's getting hard out there with the economy. When you have better skills, you get hired. As the market gets more competitive, the better you are, the more likely you are to get hired. The better you are, the more you get paid, and great people don't get laid off or made redundant. So we'll make sure your skills are excellent. So you've got the most protection and the most insurance for your career. And because of that, we're 30% off right now. I want to help you all get cloud hired and cloud promoted. So please ask your questions in the chat box. But before we do, can you, everybody tell me where you're located in the chat box and give me a hashtag cloud hired, because that's what we do and why we do it. Other people focus only on certification, like anybody can get you certified. That's nothing. We get you hired. Huge difference. And getting hired is so important to us. So give us a hashtag cloud hired and tell us where you're from. Hi, Ravi Kumar. It's good to see you this morning. Chindu, it's always great to see you. Toby, hello, sir. You're such a blessing. Thank you. Toby, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that you're here. Alonzo Coleman, my good friend, so glad to have you back, Mike and Chris. Alonzo, I am thrilled to be back, and I am thrilled that you're back. Although for your sake, if you were still in Jamaica enjoying your 10-year anniversary, I was kind of excited for you because, I love it in Jamaica. Rosella, can't wait for the Azure Bootcamp. Me too. I'm excited. Ryan, good morning. It's good to see you. Klaus, yeah, it is a lot of learning. We're really working pretty hard to help as many people. Alonzo's over there in Katy, Texas, which is around Houston. Cloud hired. Klaus, Cloud hired. You're Toby from Nigeria. That's fantastic. We have well over 100 Nigerian students. And Ravi Kumar, you're from Bangalore, India. That's fantastic. I need to go back to Mysore. I haven't been to Mysore in a long period of time, and I usually stop in Bangalore to go visit friends while I'm there. So got to get there as well. Helki, fantastic. So ask us your questions. Chris will feed them to me. Klaus, hi, Mike. What's the current scenario regarding our economy and cloud computing careers? Well, Klaus, I got to tell you, it looks to me like we're entering a global economic slowdown. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing for us in the cloud computing space. Let's talk about which careers are going to benefit. So I'm going to preface this with one thing, Klaus, and say there's a shortage of qualified technology people. Very few people actually working in tech truly know it. So truly great people, as a rule, don't get laid off. I've never been laid off in my entire career. Because I'm going to tell you, I only had one of my clients in my entire career ever got laid off. He received a 6-figure severance package and had a $300,000 job within a week and a half. So, he made a good $150,000 in the severance package and had a job a week later. He was not upset. Now, when it comes to an economy that's getting tight, we have to think about revenue generating positions versus cost positions. And that, by the way, is essentially critical. So let's talk about what that means. Sales reps bring money into the business. They're the last to get laid off if they do their job. Cloud architects drive digital transformation. So if you work pre-sales as a cloud architect, you're bringing money into the business. And guess what? In a bad economy, your role becomes even more critical. Why in a bad economy do we need more and more and more cloud architects? Because we drive digital transformation. If a company can't afford its staff, the cloud architect will find robots, automation technology, conferencing technologies, and ways to help with outsourcing, because that's what we do as cloud architects. We drive digital transformation. So the cloud architect careers in a bad economy are generally really good. Pre-sales engineering careers are generally very good, etc. Now, Klaus, I'm not a DevOps person, but in a bad economy, automation careers like a DevOps engineer who can take away 10 people's admin jobs, yeah, they're still typically good. Now, who gets laid off, Klaus? The programmers and the deep hardcore engineers. Why? Well, see, here's the thing. The architect needs to be relatively local unless you live in a big city like New York or London or Paris or a major industrial complex. Because we visit our clients, we're customer facing. We cloud architects don't touch the tech. We design, present, and sell for the most part. And because of that, we're safe. Now, let's think about these back-end engineering like software. And you'll notice from me that I've never, ever encouraged anyone ever in my life to do a programming career. I never encourage software development, and here's the reason. When you look at that supply and demand curve, you look at, is there a supply of people versus the need? Now, there's a huge supply of programmers because everybody in college is taught to program. And guess what? The greater the supply, the lower the price. So salaries are always lower. But, Klaus, where does your programmer have to live? Does it matter if your programmer is hiding in a basement in Cape Town, in Constantinople, what do they call it now? Istanbul. I was trying to use things with C, like the Cookie Monster. I was trying to enumerate with C. Or Costa Rica. It's completely irrelevant. So, Klaus, engineering jobs get outsourced. And in a bad economy, I don't want somebody being a software engineer. Ooh, that's the job that gets laid off. So, thinking about it, try to bias things towards things that bring in money. Now, the cloud engineer is going to be a special spot here. Normally, they'd be the first to go because they're back-end people. So the architect designs it and brings money in, and the engineer builds it, which means there are costs. But generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, if we migrate from that traditional data center to the cloud, which is nothing more than a virtual network in a data center, basically you're renting somebody else's data center. In these particular situations, the cloud engineers may become safe because the architects are driving the transformation, the cloud engineers are building it. To some degree, DevOps engineers are good. Now, everybody else, the cloud admins, done. The cloud sysops people in a bad, or the maintenance people in a bad environment, done. Software developers, done. Now, only if we get a really, really bad economy. And right now, it looks like we're in an unofficial recession. And it looks like a pretty scary recession. And here's the reason why. We have some of the highest, at least in the US, inflation with regards to 40 years. And no, this inflation didn't just start 6 months ago. It started about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So we have got extremely high inflation. And at the same time, we had one negative quarter of GDP growth, which was further refined down. And when we start looking at GDP growth, if our GDP growth is 8%, but our inflation rate is 8.6%, that's technically, if you convert real dollars to nominal dollars to real dollars, that would still be considered negative GDP growth. So that's kind of questionable. Are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? Klaus, here's what you do about it. To not get laid off and to get hired in a recession, be the best you can be. Who gets laid off? People that are unlikable, people that are lazy, people that don't have good social skills, good communication skills, or good emotional intelligence. So Klaus, focus on those skills, focusing on being the best you can at your skill. When you're at work, volunteer for projects. When you're in a meeting and everybody's hiding, there's work to be done, hiding. I got it covered. Now, Klaus, volunteer for the most critical projects in the company. And then when there's a layoff or a redundancy, they can't get rid of you. You're on the most critical project. And employers love people that go above and beyond. So, Klaus, here's a rule. Employers talk about things that they want. They look for competency, trustworthiness, knowledge of what you know and what you don't know, energy, enthusiasm, and passion, emotional intelligence, the willingness to go above and beyond and be a team player. So show that to your manager, whether it be the hiring manager on your future job or your current job, and as a rule, you are safe. So that's how you navigate a bad economy, Klaus. What an excellent question. Excellent. And then, Chris, we can go to the next one. Ravi Kumar, this is a good question. What's the difference between a cloud architect, a network architect, and a security architect? Perfect question, Ravi. So a cloud architect designs the end-to-end solution. It's kind of an enterprise architect on the cloud, which means we are the generalist architect. Now, it's still a specialty career. But what that means is, Ravi, I go to the customer and the customer says, hey, Mike, I need to do this. Now, as a generic cloud architect, I say, okay, there's complicated networking. I need these 3 network architects. I need these 2 security architects. I need these 2 IAM architects. I need 3 big data architects. I need 2 DBAs that are assigned to the project. I need 10 cloud engineers and 1 DevOps engineer, and together we get together and design the project. See, the cloud architect is basically the coordinator or facilitator of the end-to-end design. Now, the network architect, and Robbie, I spent a lot of time as a network architect. We design the network. That's it. Nothing else, only the network. So what do our WAN links need to be? Are they 1 gig, 10 gig, 100 gig? Are we using software-defined networking, SSL VPNs, IPsec VPNs, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS? How are we traffic engineering our traffic with BGP, etc.? How are we route summarization, route aggregation, and tuning the direction of their traffic flows? That's a network architect. What's a security architect do? Design the security. That's it. Only security. So they're the person responsible for the design of the firewalls, the IDS, IPS systems. Where do the ACLs go? What do those ACLs need to look like? Even though they don't put them in, they design it. What's the security policy need to look like? What kind of training of the staff needs to occur? what kind of anti-malware protection is going to be used, what kind of encryption is going to be used, et cetera, they design it. So Robbie, it's great. Architects design, present, and sell for the most part. So no matter what, we're typically working for a vendor and we're selling these things, or a consulting company and we're selling these things. Now, Robbie, there are times where we architects are not pre-sales. And yet, Robbie, we still design, present, and sell. And you say, what do you mean? There's nobody to sell to. So let's say I work at a bank, like a big bank. I'm there as a network architect. I still do or a cloud architect. I do the following. I ask the executives in that business, what's going on with the business and what kind of transformation are you looking for? From there, I analyze the systems by bringing in a bunch of engineers to help me. I make an assessment or a diagnosis, and I build a plan called an architecture. Then I got to go sell that architecture back to the management and convince them they need it. And then they say, yes, Mike, I need this. And I say, engineers, go build this for me, please. Here, I'd like you to program manage this. And that's the same job. So it's always a design, present, and sell, no matter where we're at. But as a rule, architects don't ever touch the tech. We design the tech. Great question, Ravi Kumar. Ajit Swain, you're asking a question, which is two things. One, you're asking first on cost optimization. That's the last thing that I'm ever concerned about. I am always concerned about digital transformation. So many people that come to me, they're like, I want to figure out how to shave pennies. And I say, that's not what we do. And they're like, but I want to save. And Ajit, I want you to think about this. If we can drive technology that costs $1 billion, but the technology can deliver $3 billion of business values, the customers will finance it and buy it or rent it. They don't care. If it costs you $1 and you can bring in $2, it's a win. So cost optimization is what engineers worry about. I'm an architect. I worry about business optimization. So there's that. Now, performance improvement in AWS, we talk about that in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. That's the kind of thing that we talk about in our paid program. But here's the thing. There's no such thing as performance improvement in AWS. There's performance improvement in the network, and there's performance improvement in the cloud. Now, Ajit, 87% of customers use more than one cloud. And 97% are going to be on 2 clouds by the end of the year because they'd be crazy to use a single cloud. Now, think about it. Would you put all your eggs in one basket? Would you put all your money in a single stock? Of course you wouldn't. It's insanity. And architects like me for 30 plus, 20 plus, 5 plus years have told people never, ever, ever use a single service provider. If you work at Cisco, the king and queen of high availability systems, or Juniper Networks, and again, the experts, they will say if you design your WAN, one link has to be on different service providers. You always need more than one. And here's why. If a service provider goes down because of a network issue, they get hacked or have a control plane issue, the whole system is down and the customer's there. We've had global outages constantly on the cloud, and now our customers are wiser. So there's no such thing as performance improvement in AWS. There's performance improvement in the multi-cloud world. What does that involve? What does my wide area network look like? How am I optimizing my traffic engineering with the networking stuff? Now, how am I optimizing my virtual machine sizing? How am I dealing with the horribly slow performance of block storage in the cloud? That's right, you heard it from me, horribly bad performance of block storage. For example, you get the fastest AWS IO2 provisioned EBS volume, the fastest you can buy, and it's got 250,000 IOPS at the max. Now you can go to Best Buy and you can buy a $100 drive from Samsung, a 980 Pro, and it gives you almost a million IOPS, which is 4 times the fastest thing there. Now, also realize this, that in a data center, we might have 8 of these 1 million IOPS drives in a RAID array. So on a server in a data center, we may get 8 million IOPS, but the fastest we can get on the cloud is 250. So we have to know how to work around the cloud slow performance with RAID. We have to work around all of it. So performance optimization is always based on business optimization. So when people say, Mike, how do I do this? I first say, do they need it? In fact, Chris, please post in the chat box the LinkedIn post that I made this morning. I want people to see it. And here's the reason why. Anytime somebody asks me, hey, what's the best tech or what's the best this? My response is always the same. It's never, ever, ever about the tech. Ever. Want an example? I'll give you an example. I was an architect doing healthcare digital transformation. I've done banking and service providers too, but let's talk about healthcare. When I started with healthcare digital transformation, we all had these paper charts. And I can tell you, when I was a nurse before I practiced internal medicine, when we'd read these ugly paper charts, we would take guesses. What do you think the doctor meant? Is it this drug or this drug? Is it 4 milligrams or 40 milligrams? What do you think that wrote? That's how bad it was looking at these paper charts. Now, legit, let me tell you this. When we looked at paper charts, I'm going to tell you right now that medical errors were the 5th leading cause of death in the U.S. Scary, huh? 100,000 people have died of medical errors. The U.S. government went so far as to mandate electronic health records to improve quality. Now, when I went to customers and they'd say, hey, Mike, what's the best tech? I'd say, no. There's no such thing as the best tech. And I'd say, what are your business needs? What do your nurses do? What do your doctors do? And you know what I did? I'd literally sit there on site and watch, even though I could practice medicine and I used to be a nurse before that. So here's the thing. I knew what they did. Once I figured out what the customer's business needs were, then I'd recommend technology, and the customers were super successful. By comparison, the people who I did not consult to, or who the good architects did not consult to, they said, who has the best tech? And they bought the top-rated electronic health record, the best networking, everything, right? They bought the best. Now, medical errors went up from 98,000 per year to 251,000 per year. Whoa! We added the tech, and medical errors went from the 5th leading cause of death to the 3rd leading cause of death. That's right, you heard me. And that's why it's never, ever, ever about the tech. What does performance improvement mean? It means optimizing the business. And without knowing the business requirements, there's no kind of performance optimization we could ever talk about. And anything we talk about before that is theoretical and may damage our customers' business, cost lives, including death, and billions of dollars of loss. So legit, you have to look at the customer in every single case. What are they trying to do? That's the performance you're talking about. Good question, but think business first, technology second. It's just a tool. You know, if you're dealing with a carpenter, what they know is in their brain and in their hands. Now, whether they use a hammer that they bought from Home Depot or Lowe's, it's nonsense. It doesn't matter. It's just a tool. For we architects, the tech is just a tool. So learn how to use the tools, but never get off of the transformation. That's what matters most. Great question, Ajit. Chris, you can bring in the next one. Alonzo Coleman, yes, hit that like button. And please share, comment, etc., etc. And Alonzo put it perfectly. Asking us what's the best tech is like asking which is the best martial art. There is no best martial art. It's the martial artist that's best and how they use those tools. Toby Leo, you're trying to become an AWS solutions architect. You have no prior coding. Good. Architects don't code. Or networking experience. Do you need to learn coding? No, architects do not code. So don't learn code at all. Architects design, present, and sell, Toby. Say it with me. Design, present, and sell. And Toby, when people want to become architects, 99% of the time they get it wrong. And lots of times people ask me, hey, Mike, I want to know what's in your course so I know if it's good enough for me to become an architect. And I ask them, have you ever worked as an architect before? And they say, no. And I say, then you don't know what needs to be in the course. Because 90% of the population confuses an engineer with an architect. But we architects that have been working for decades know what an architect actually is. So Toby, we design, present, and sell. So here's what you need to know. You need to know networking, which includes routing protocols such as BGP and OSPF. You need to understand subnetting, which I'm going to do a completely free subnetting workshop, and supernetting, route aggregation, etc. You need to understand WAN technologies such as IPsec tunnels, SSL VPNs, software-defined networking, SASE, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, etc., and BGP VPNs, RFC 2547 if you want to check it out on the Internet Engineering Task Force. You need to know switching, which involves VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, etc., etc. Spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, those kind of protocols. Then you need to know servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, storage, area networks, block storage, file storage, object storage, and how they work. The tech, not with these AWS terms. When you're done that, you need to understand load balancers. When to use an application load balancer versus a network load balancer, like a reverse proxy, et cetera, et cetera. Then you need to learn about databases, the relational databases and the NoSQL databases. Because here's the thing, Toby, you can't be using the proprietary stuff that the cloud providers have anyway in a multi-cloud environment. Then you need to know security, firewalls, next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, VPN, concentrators, et cetera. Now that's the tech part. Now, Toby, I'm going to tell you, as an architect, 50 to 60+% of our job is not technical. And this is where people get it wrong. They learn things like DevOps, which is not an architect skill. They learn things like SysOps, which is not an architect skill. They learn coding, which is not an architect skill. And what else do they do, Toby? They do a lot of hands-on configuration on the cloud. Architects don't touch the tech ever. We design, present, and sell, which means the architect also needs very good sales skills. And we're not talking about emotional selling. We're talking about ROI modeling. The architect responds to a lot of RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, so you got to get used to writing proposals and responding to proposals, etc. Next, we deliver presentations in global audiences at big industry conferences. And guess what? To get hired, you're most likely going to have to deliver a presentation on your interview, so make sure you've got the presentation skills. Now, Toby, we have to be something that's called CXO relevant. Chief Executive Officer relevant, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Chief Information Security Officer, because if we're not, here's what happens. We're going to go to the customer, they're going to literally kick us out of the data center or kick us out of the meeting, and we'll be fired, and our replacement will say thank you, which happens all the time when engineers try to do architecture. It's sad, but it's true. We will be writing thought leadership papers, something called white papers, which vendors make you write to help them sell products, and you're going to have to do that, which means you're going to need executive writing skills. We're also going to be negotiating deals upwards of $1 billion, so you're going to need some stellar negotiation skills. Now, Toby, we teach all of these things in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and that's why we're so successful at getting people their first cloud architect job. But realize this, no coding, no hands-on anything, design, present, and sell. And that's why the world gets so confused with these things. And Toby, it's the saddest thing ever. The certification providers are telling people to learn this and learn to code and learn to do this. And in the end, people spend years of their time, get nowhere, and then they come to us, and within a couple months, we get them hired. So focus on that, Toby. You don't need any prior coding or networking. The networking experience would be good, but if not, learn networking. Make sure you know networking. And Toby, keep following our channel. We'll do everything we can to help you build your best career. You hope to achieve your goal in 4 to 6 months, 4 to 6 salaries, how you can be invaluable. Also, how can you build invaluable experience while doing this? Well, Toby Lee, I want you to understand what architect experience is versus engineering experience. We design, present, and sell. That's it. We don't do anything with our hands. So write some blogs, give some presentations, get some leadership training, or take ours. We typically it takes us about 8 months for people without a tech background to get them hired as an architect in our training, which includes at least 500 hours of training. So it takes us about 8 months from scratch for someone that's never worked in tech. Now, occasionally we get someone like Daniel Boso, who came to our channel, who, realistically speaking, we got him trained in 6 months. I had a Richard Ofukar that came through my program. He was amazing. He was hired by AWS in 3 weeks. I had a Delroy Batt, who got his first security job within 4 weeks in my program. I had a Joe Millen, who was hired by AWS as a senior cloud architect, or what they called it, senior solutions architect in his case. He was with me for about a month, but he also had a strong networking background. But here's the thing. You can do it, Toby. You can do it. You can do it. Now, getting experience, here's one of the things that we do. So we know that nobody cares if you can set up an S3 bucket or an EC2 instance or do any of those silly certification labs. They're meaningless for the architect. And Toby, here's the reason why they're worthless. We don't configure anything. Now, here's the thing. People want to know that we have in the past, though. So with our students, we typically have them do about 20 silly AWS labs and 20 Azure labs. And the reason we call them silly is they're basic. Now, Toby, what we do, and here's my recommendation, and these labs will help you. If you can, I recommend getting a server. that has a Xeon server with a minimum of 16 cores, minimum of 128 gigabytes of RAM, and 3 SSD drives in RAID 0, or an NVMe drive. Now, the server is about $2,000. This is included in every single one of our courses, including our basic courses. Get this server and do the following, or take our course and use our servers. I don't care, but I just want you getting hired. So on the server, first thing I want you to do is set up server virtualization, because that's how you're going to learn how it works. By the way, when you know that, if you understand server virtualization, it doesn't matter if it's an Azure virtual machine, an Oracle virtual machine, an EC2 instance on AWS, or a compute instance, Google, because it's the same tech. Then we'd like you to set up containers and container orchestration on the server. And guess what? Same thing on every cloud. Then you know all the clouds. Next, build the firewall on the server. Get some experience. We have all our students do this. Build a VPN concentrator. Guess what? Do that. We have all our students do that. Build the Linux Apache MySQL stack the hard way on the server. Now, set up some file sharing, file servers, a server message block share like via Samba. Set up an NFS share via Samba. Set up an Active Directory server. And Toby, when you're done, all my students do this. Build a cloud. That's right, you heard me, build the cloud. And that way, when you can build Amazon's cloud from scratch, or Oracle's cloud from scratch, or AWS's cloud from scratch, or Google's cloud from scratch, because you know how to design and build your own cloud like all my students do, then you're a cloud architect. Now think about this. You go on an interview, you don't have a lot of experience, but you've interviewed somebody and you're well-spoken, well-liked, well-loved, lots of executive presence, lots of CXO relevance. You're up here already, lots of likability. And somebody else says, I set up a web server. And the hiring manager laughs. And you said, I designed and built my own cloud. And they're like, you're hired. So Toby, that's why we do what we do. And those are my recommendations for you. And please build your career. I want to see if the best career ever. Chris, we can go to the next one. These are great questions there. Here we go. Which is the best? Azure or GCP? It's the identical everything. So it's just a data center. If you walked into any data center anywhere in the world, any of them, you'd see Cisco routers or Juniper routers and Cisco switches or Juniper switches or Extreme switches or who cares. Then you'd see some firewalls, some IDS, IPS systems, some physical load balancers. Guess what? In many cases, all the clouds are built on the same technology. They're identical. In some cases, the cloud providers built their own, but it doesn't matter. It's identical. So let's say you wanted to build a house, and there were 2 stores that sold bricks. As an architect, you say, and by the way, as an architect, you're going to always be using at least 2 clouds, and it's never going to be the cloud you want. So you have to understand the cloud versus any cloud. But think about it this way. If you got to build a house and you need bricks, steel, copper, and cement, does it matter where you buy it? Of course not. So whether you go to Azure or Google, if you want to buy coffee and it's a brand of coffee, let's say Nescafe, does it matter which store you bought it from? Of course not. Buy the one that's cheaper. Buy the one that's nicer to you. So there is never any best technology. And there is no best cloud. Period. It's just a rented network and data center. Now, the marketing people spend billions of dollars on marketing, and they came up with stupid names for old technologies, but it's all network and data center technologies. I'm not joking. Last year, AWS made a main press release. We now allow east-west routing as if it was legendary. And for them, it was. But Cisco did that in 1985. Then 2 weeks ago, new announcement. You can now run IPsec over a direct connection or a private line. And I saw half of the AWS employees that didn't know anything about tech posted, look at this, look at this, look at this major thing. It changes everything. Yeah, but I did that in 1998. So it's like this. If you know the network and the data center, you know all the clouds. The clouds are just trying to catch up to the data center. So there is no best. Learn the network line in the data center, and you know every cloud, everywhere, every time. And then all you got to do is look at the names, which change constantly anyway. Now think about this. Could you imagine doctors using 10 different names for a drug? Let's say we had a drug, a statin called Lipitor. That's the drug that Pfizer paid millions of dollars to name. Now, we medical people, when we write a prescription, we call atorvastatin. Now, there might be a lipid low, lipid D, lipid high, lipid this, lipid that. Could be all of it. But I want you to think about it. If we doctors all mention different names, our nurse practitioners, physicians, all different names for every drug, our patients would be dead because we wouldn't know what we're prescribing. So we just strip off all the stupid names the drug companies make and reuse a generic name. Atorvastatin. We use a standard lexicon or a standard word. When we deal with clients, guess what? You will never hear me mention the word EC2 in my life. I say, here's where your network load balancers are going to be. Here's where your virtual machines are. Here's where your block storage is. This is what your object storage looks like. And why? Customers understand it. And then I can use any cloud. And my customers can use a data center in 3 clouds, which is not that uncommon. And they have highest availability, highest performance, and the best experience. So there you go. There is no best cloud. Now look at it this way. Now you could evaluate it on a case-by-case basis. Like, for example, if you wanted a machine learning thing, you might say, I can build it myself, and then you've got the most customization, and that's going to give you your best results. Or you could say, I want something pre-built. You could then evaluate it and say, who's the number 1 algorithm maker in the world? Google. Who's the number 2 algorithm maker in the world? Google. Number 1 search engine? Google. Number 2 search engine? YouTube. So if I was going to do machine learning, first I'd hire a team of data scientists that are going to code it properly in my own data center. But if I was going to use pre-made stuff in the cloud, I'd use Google. But in every case, go look at the store, what the store has. You want to buy a steak for your family. Which store has the best steak? Now, all stores' steak is the same, but if one is prime versus choice, you can pick their grade. So keep that in the back of your mind. Chris, let's go to the next one. Love that question. Hi, Mike. I'm seeing signs of being terminated from your current tech job. Will it affect your future job? You're considering resigning before being terminated. ET, as a rule, if you don't get along well with your manager or things don't look good, find another job as fast as possible. And it's much better to quit before being terminated, by far. But ET, I don't know your position. I don't know your financial strategy, etc. And what do I mean by that? There are times where people don't have a lot of money. And if they get laid off by their current position, we'll get a $100,000 severance package. And they might be able to live on that while they're retraining or getting their new job. Now, there's the possibility of that. I'm also going to tell you right now that it's near impossible for an employer to say anything bad about you on a reference check, and here's the reason why. You can't say anything negative about somebody the employer can't, because the person could sue them and say, hey, wait, they hurt my ability to get a new job. But if you see signs that are not good and you can afford to do so, I'd probably leave. Personally, that would be my goal. But realize you're much more attracted to employers when you're employed. So if you have a month and you think you do, go crazy right now on trying to find your new job. But if you don't think you have any time, it's probably better to resign than it actually is to have a negative thing on your resume, because it's not going to look good. Why were you laid? Now, if you were laid off in a bad crisis like COVID, generally speaking, people understand that. But being fired is generally not a good thing. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Sorry you're going through the struggle, but ET, focus hard, train hard, become the best you possibly can be. You might ask your manager if there's something you could do to be better. You might say, I want to be the best I can for you. Do you have any recommendations or guidance? And that might buy you some time as well. But that would have to be a very emotionally intelligent, heart-to-heart conversation. Hi, Mrs. Manager, how are you today? I've been training hard to become better, but it really matters. This job means so much to me. Is there anything I can do to become a better employee for you? Are there any projects that I could help you with that would be really good for you? Sometimes you can turn that around. Think about that as an option as well. Chris, let's go to the next one. Please state the difference with a cloud architect and a cloud engineer use case. Robbie, very simple. Here, I'm an architect. Here's what I do. I wake up, I go to the customer site, I talk to them. I buy them lunch. In fact, one year I spent $100,000 of company money on lunches. And then I talk, I go back home, I write a document. The next day I wake up, I deliver a presentation, deliver another presentation, write a couple of documents. The day after that, I write a thought leadership paper. The day after that, I write another document. I go visit a client, give a speech. That's what architects do. Now, we meet with executives. So we design those things. So realistically speaking, we, Robbie, never, ever, ever as architects touch the technology. We design, present, and sell. So now, Robbie, so think of, Robbie, what a doctor does. You meet your doctor in the doctor's office. Or let's say if somebody's in the hospital. The doctor comes in and visits the patient. Hi, Mrs. Patient, how are you? I'm not feeling well. Let me listen to your heart, your lungs, feel your belly. Let me check your vital signs in your labs. The doctor then writes a plan and leaves the hospital. And who carries out the doctor's plan? The nurses. They administer the medications, move the patient, take care of the patient, etc. Now the cloud architect goes and meets with the customer, just like the doctor. They ask some questions about their business, tell me about your business goals, business pain points, business challenges. The architect then goes back home, brings a bunch of cloud engineers with them, collaborates with the cloud engineers, cloud architects on the design, presents it to the customer and sells it. Now we then negotiate a business deal. It closes $500 million of sales. We get a huge commission check. Then we go back to the company and say, here, cloud engineers, go build this. And the cloud engineers get behind the console and they use the command line. They get on Linux and they configure the systems. They get on Terraform, configure infrastructure as code. The cloud engineer programs. The cloud engineer touches the tech. So the architect is a 100% non-hands-on position, design, present, and sell. And the cloud engineer is the techie behind the computer all day that builds it. So architect, business executive, not a techie. Engineer, techie. So Robbie, how do people kill their architecture career? They get 10 certifications. When the customer really wants a business executive with business acumen, leadership skills, sales skills, CXO relevancy, negotiation skills, etc. Robbie, architects design, engineers build. Now, I'll give you another example because this is so confused. If I wanted the hotel built, I'd call an architect and I'd say, I want 1,000 rooms. I want it to have beautiful waterfalls. I'd like it to be all glass elevators. And I want to impress Saudi princes and sheikhs and the wealthiest people from all over the world. And the architect would come up with some blueprints. Now, Robbie, when we're done, the architect does not use a hammer. He does not use a drill or a screwdriver or a saw. The architect hires a construction crew who builds it. The cloud engineer is the construction crew. The architect is the system designer. Let's go to the next one, Chris. Is there any position like a network architect in the cloud? Absolutely. That's what a cloud network architect is. It's a network architect in the cloud. It's mostly what I do. I get involved in other stuff because to me, I'm more of an enterprise architect in today's world. I like to live with the CEOs and CTOs and CIOs and do business analysis and business cases and negotiations, etc. But yeah, PG, cloud network architect is a network architect who just works predominantly on the cloud. What do? The WAN. The IP addressing, the subnetting, the supernetting, the traffic engineering, etc. The same job that we've done for the last 25 years. And why is it the same? Because we're going from a physical network to a virtual network. There's no difference. Same BGP, same everything. But yeah, PG Enterprises, absolutely. And that's the thing. And people are like, I want a cloud job. And I'm like, well, which one? They're like, you mean there's more than one? Yeah, same network architects. Now, you know what, PG Enterprises? The same security architects off the cloud who deal with next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, IDS, IPS systems, etc. They do the same job on the cloud too, because we're not going to be using things like WAF to secure our systems. We're going to be going And we're going to be going to the marketplace, and we're going to be getting the same enterprise-grade firewalls. So PG Enterprise is the identical job. The network architect and the cloud network architect. Same thing we've always done. Great question, by the way. Almost identical. It's just now, instead of, config T, router BGP 65312, network one, we're doing it on the cloud with our command line. Same thing. Same thing. And Chris, you can go to the next one. Thank you. Toby Leo, this is by far the best advice you've gotten in your cloud journey. You are more than welcome. That's why we do this, and here's the reason why. I don't want to see anybody spend 1 year and do a SysOps and a DevOps and a maintenance certification like I see, and in the end, not have the skills to get hired. I want you all to have the world's greatest career. So Toby, keep coming around, ask your questions, and I will do anything I can to help you build your best career. Thank you so much for your kind words, and please keep coming. And join us this afternoon for Azure. Join us next week for the BGP and the subnetting workshop. Join us there. So please, everybody, give us some questions. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and hit the bell. If you haven't given us a like, can you give us a like? It signals the algorithm that what we're doing is valuable, and we can help more people completely free of charge, which is something that's very, very important to cover you. Hey, Mike, you work as an account manager for a tech company. Excellent. I want to be a cloud architect. This is more related to your current job. Part 1. Excellent. That's a great transition, by the way. Although typically speaking, I'm not sure which country you are, but I know account managers in the US that are earning $250,000 to $1 million a year. And most cloud architects are kind of in the range of $150 to $350 to $400. So, keep that in the back of your mind. But the cloud architect is a role where you don't get laid off if you don't meet your quota that month. The cloud architect has got lots of security, and I love it, love it, love it. What's the second half of your question, Kennedy? However, there's more availability of cloud engineer jobs than cloud jobs in your country. Please advise what your crash is. So, Kennedy, there's always going to be more cloud engineering jobs than cloud architect jobs as a rule. But you got to think about it. Where is your end-to-end long-term goal? There's much, much, much more future for you as a cloud architect. Much more potential for you. Now, I'm looking at your name. I'm assuming you're in Africa. I don't know which part of Africa you're in. If you're in a major city like Cape Town, for example, there's real architects that do pure architecture things. If by comparison you're in sub-Saharan Africa, in a place that's less developed, maybe some part of Ghana, a part of Cameroon, and there's a lot of work that I do in Cameroon and it's really growing on. But in these cases, it might make sense when you become a cloud architect to also learn how to do the stuff. See, in normal places, architects will never touch the technology. But Kennedy, if you're in Africa, which I'm assuming by your name, especially saying cloud architects in your jobs are rare, I understand that. So you might want to work on the hybrid skill set, meaning get comfortable doing the labs as well as learning how to design, present, and sell. Leverage your account manager background, leverage what it took to get there, and you'll be good. But, if you're in Africa, and I only say Africa because I do a lot of work in Africa. I love it. I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of African students getting hired and doing well. I mean, we have 50 of us that volunteer in sub-Saharan Africa with a project called Cloud Heroes Africa. So we know that market very well. In that market, I would say it's good to get some hands-on tech skills as well. So in addition to just learning how to design, present, and sell, I'd probably also at minimum get used to configuring the cloud and get a little Linux knowledge under my belt, just in case you had to do a little hands-on, and then you should be good. But normally, if you're in the US, getting hands on Linux would kill the cloud architect career, or getting Terraform skills would kill the cloud architect career in the US. But in Africa, to some degree, it might make sense. But I'm assuming you're there based upon your name. I don't know where you're at. So please let me know with more information and I will happily help you. Chris, let's go to the next one. ET, thank you for the advice. Apply it. Please let me know how it works out. I wish the best for you. Bob, Cloud hired. Yeah, and if you've got questions, ask them. We'll get to them. NGW Leonard, it's so good to see you. I know you're Cloud hired. Good day to all. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful having you here today. Miss Lam Jamin, what do I find help me take notes as a new cloud student in the tech industry? What hacks do you use to change your note-taking? I'm going to tell you this right now. Do not take notes on a tablet or a computer. And here's the reason why. When you write handwritten notes, it activates a part of the brain called the reticular activating system, which helps commit things to memory. So keep that in the back of your mind. So there's that. So I would take handwritten notes. I would buy a nice, I'm going to see if I have one sitting here right now that I could show you. Here we go. I would get a nice little leather folio like this. I got notes in this, obviously. I would take notes on something like this, and I would remember the following. I have a really good friend, and she said, we're born with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you speak. So Miss Lemon, Jim, I don't know who you are. You're awesome. Ask a question to get people talking and just be quiet. Let them babble, 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 and be quiet. Next, Miss Lemon, gentlemen, the reason we're giving credit cards with these companies is they expect us to spend money. Like I said, in 1 year, I spent at least $100,000 on lunches. When you go to the lunch, guess what you do? Buy them lunch. Talk, talk, talk. Ask questions. Build a relationship. Don't ask too many business questions. Let it be more relationship-oriented, and people will talk, talk, talk. Islam and gentlemen, and then buy them dinners and drinks. Take them to Morton's, Ruth's Chris, Smith and Walensky. I know where you live, so I know these places are there. Get them drunk. They'll talk a lot more. So now you know, Miss Lam and gentlemen, paper, paper, paper. I don't use any technology in my business that I don't need to. I use Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel, and handwritten notes. And here's the thing. If you're in a meeting with the CEO and you take out a notebook, meeting's over, your replacement says, thank you for the new job. So paper notes, it activates the reticular activating system on the brain, and that's what it takes for you to remember it. But listen twice as much as you speak and ask open-ended questions. Then ask a question like, and also never non-judgmental questions. So I come from medicine. I know you've got a healthcare background, so let me explain this to you. If I said to my patient, you don't drink, do you? They'd say, Mike, of course not. If I said, do you drink alcohol? Oh, yes, Mike, I have a glass of wine with dinner. See the difference? You don't use drugs, do you? Person's going to say, of course not. Do you smoke? No. You drink a little bit. Do you use any other substances? No judgment here. Yes, I do. So open-ended questions and listen twice as much as you speak. And Chris, go to the next one. When starting out as a cloud architect, how much security should one learn to be all around? Well, Chin, what I teach it to my students, and I hate talking about certifications because certifications get nobody a job ever. And when people think they get certified and they can't get hired, there's a reason for it, which we'll talk about because somebody has that question. What do they need to do after passing their solution architect? But here's the thing. We teach all of our students to the level of the CISSP. We consider that to be, and we look at all certifications as intro level, especially ones like the AWS ones. They're all intro level. Then again, I consider my Cisco certified internet expert to be intro level. And here's the reason why. After reading the 75,000 pages necessary to pass that exam back when it was a TDA exam and I passed it, after that, That was around the time that I got to be put on projects where I got to learn. So Chindu, you must know about next generation firewalls. You must know about IDS, IPS systems. You must know about VPN concentrators. You must know about what goes into a security policy. You must know what goes into anti-social engineering. You must know what goes into personnel training. You must know what kind of encryptions to use for storage and WANs, etc. You must have some knowledge about identity and access management systems, knowledge of access control lists, how to patch, knowledge of what needs to be done to the servers, how do you disable the unnecessary services, how do you patch them, what kind of anti-malware, host-based firewalls, etc. But remember, we're not going to build it as the architect, we're going to design it. And here's the good news, Chindu. Now, I have to design a secure system. We know that in reality, we're never going to use a cloud-native security services for anything that matters other than a small mom and pop. Like for my cat Cindy's website, I'll use WAF and Shield. And I've got a beautiful cat Cindy, and one day I'm going to build her a website. But that's neither here nor there. It's going to be a hobby. You can see pictures of her licking herself, cleaning herself, whatever. I just like my cat Cindy. Love my cat Cindy, I should say. But, for a business, we're going to be dealing with a firewall from Cisco or Palo Alto or Fortinet. And here's the good news, Chindu. When we're an architect and we're on these projects, we can call Cisco, and they'll send some of their engineers and architects that know their product better than we will, and they'll advise us on it. Then we'll call Palo Alto. Then we'll call Fortinet. Heck, call Checkpoint while we're at it. By the time we're done, we're going to let a team of experts help us. So we have to know enough. For the architect, it's much more critical for you to know how to lead and bring in the people and collaborate with them and ask the questions than it is for you to know this yourself. And Chindu, I like to give you the two examples. I had a friend who was one of the best architects I've ever met. This friend knew zero about the technology that he was designing. But you know what this friend had? Some of the best leadership skills I'd ever seen. So he would get put on a project and he'd take the customer out, he'd schmooze, he'd sell it, and then he'd go back and he'd call everybody. I need you, Mike. I need you, Joey. I need you, Sal. I need you, Richard. I need you. We'd all get together and help him design it. And we were thrilled to, because he brought in probably a third of the company's money by himself, not knowing how the stuff worked. That's a better architect than the 10x AWS certified person that thinks he or she knows something about it. And the reality is, by the end of the 10 certifications, the level of knowledge is so minimal, the person doesn't even know what they don't know. So architecture is a team sport. It's not a one-man thing. You can't do it by being the tech guru. There's a proverb in Africa that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Architecture is a team sport. We always go together. We executives meet with the client, ask some questions, and then we go back to our companies and say, Mr. VP, I need 3 of your engineers. Mr. Executive Vice President, I need 3 of your engineers. Mrs. CIO, I need some of these people. And that's what we do. So more on your leadership skills than on your technical skills every single time. Ravi Kumar, what you'll be covered in the live classes. In the live classes, we teach people how to design systems. We teach leadership skills. We teach scale skills. We teach presentation skills. Teach negotiation skills, executive communication skills. In the live classes, we teach the people the skills that they need to be hired. And that's why they're not on our website. They're not in our syllabus for a reason. I get 20 people each day that say, I want to know what's in your class. And then to see if it's good enough. And I say, well, we got about 100 people hired last year, including people that have dropped out of high school with no college degrees. And then my next question to the person that wants to ask, like, hey, is your stuff good enough? I need to evaluate it. I say, are you an architect? And they say, what do you mean? I said, have you been working as an architect? And they say, no. I said, then how can you evaluate it? It's kind of like trying to have a regular person evaluate a surgeon's work. Only another surgeon knows if the surgeon did a good job. So the topics that are covered in the classes are all the things that are necessary to teach you how to get hired. Now, in our non-live version of the same course, guess what? All those things get recorded and the people get to watch the non-live version. But in the live classes, people get to ask questions. But what's covered in the live classes is how to be an architect. Students will have to interview me like they would on the real job. They'll have to work together and collaborate together just like they would in a real job. Each architect class, every single class, is like a real architecture that will be done. Some of my students deal systems with hundreds of thousands of subnets, hundreds of thousands of servers, 20,000 remote locations, My students will deal with big banking architectures, big service provider architectures, social media company architectures, retail organization architectures, transport architectures, whatever it takes for my students to get hired. That's what we cover in the live classes. In the recorded classes, we give people the leadership things they need to know, the emotional intelligence, the career planning. And the way we do our classes is, we teach 3 live classes per week. And students attend the live classes. They ask questions. This is where we train them. In between the classes, they watch a video, which includes a homework assignment, which they have to turn in. And then we give them feedback on it to make sure they're getting better. When resumes need to be reviewed, we do it through this process. All of it is done through this process. So what gets covered in the live classes? Everything somebody needs to become a cloud architect. And that's why almost every day one of my students calls me and says, Mike, thank you so much. I'm cloud hired. That's why. Because we teach in these courses what's there. And here's the thing, Robbie. In these classes, people pick up stuff that they don't even realize. Our whole course is designed in a way that people won't understand intentionally. Here's why. I come from medicine and martial arts. If you ever saw The Karate Kid, and there was a Mr. Miyagi that told the kid, wax on, wax off. Well, here's the thing. They were trying to teach a block or a maki, which, in Okinawan karate, you use that round circular pattern. So the wax on, wax off was really there. So in our courses, we do all kinds of hidden patterning of behaviors. And that's why when you see the people in our program that say, it's changed my life, it's changed this, it's changed this, it's changed this, and it's changed this, there's a reason. Our stuff is hidden. And that's why nobody can copy what we do, even if they had their whole syllabus. And people try. And then they say, here, it's all about your resume. It's not about your resume. Here's why. If you have the best resume, you get called in an interview. But if you don't have what it takes to win the interview, you still don't get hired. And I've heard people say, hey, send me a message on Slack and you'll get hired. No, Slack does not get people hired. Good knowledge, business acumen, leadership skills, the right attitude, the right energy and enthusiasm, the proper skill set, and being exactly what the hiring manager wants. That's what gets people hired, etc. So that's what it takes. That's what we cover. Everything that's necessary to get somebody hired. Chris, you can go to the next one. Absolutely. Yes, thank you. I have more confidence now. I can do architecture, definitely. Here's the thing, absolute. We all can. Everybody wants to tell me about their experience, and I say, so what? And they mean, what do you want? I say, anybody can do everything. I had a high school dropout just get hired by one of the world's largest global banks. Here's the thing. He is smart, 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 and motivated, motivated, motivated. Of course he got hired. Amazon hired about a half a dozen of our people that never worked before last year. More than that, actually, but let's just call it 6. Here's the reason. At one point, a director at Amazon came to one of my cloud architect career development classes last June and talked about why he loved our program so much. And here's the reason. You can do it. What you did yesterday has no bearing on your future. What you ate 3 days ago does not affect your future. Now, granted, if you ate 10 pizzas 3 days ago, maybe you're a little fatter, and now you need to go on a diet, and I'm not saying that occurred. But that doesn't mean because you ate 10 pizzas 3 days ago, you can't be fit and trim. Of course you can. Change what you do today and move forward. So absolute, by the way, nice furry friend over there. Very cute. And I love furry friends. You can do it. You can do it, and you can do it. So here's what my recommendation is. Find out exactly what you need to know, and that's why we're here. Build your plan, and then run as fast as possible towards that. Now, I'm going to tell you along the way, you're going to run into some obstacles. It always happens. And when you have an obstacle, fight, obliterate that obstacle. Pass through it till you get the next obstacle. And never quit until you win. That's the secret to winning. That's what Olympians do. That's what SEALs do. That's what MARSOC, Force Recon, Raiders, whatever they want to call themselves do, because the name changes. That's what elite, everybody does. That's what CEOs do. You do that. Wow, the career you're going to have is going to be incredible. And tell me about your career success, because I love hearing about it. Thanks for the question and in response, absolute. I'm so thrilled you're here. Reverend Sama, what do you need after passing your solutions architect to get hired? Reverend, I don't know what career you're talking about. So I will If you can tell me that, that would be great. I will cover the cloud architect career and the cloud engineering career. After you pass the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, at least for the architect side, realize that you only have 5% of what you need. Why do I say that? Because certifications don't get anybody an architect job, and here's why, Reverend. And the certification teaches you the name of a service and how to configure that service. Name of a service and how to configure that service. Now, most of what's covered in certifications is proprietary services like DynamoDB, SQS, Amazon Aurora. And here's the thing, Reverend, I can never use those services, ever. They're not even part of something I could put in my architecture. And here's the reason why: they're proprietary. And if I've got 3 clouds, which is pretty normal, I can't use a DynamoDB, but I can use an Apache Cassandra if I've got a lot of write traffic, or I could use a MongoDB if I've got a lead traffic, and that's what I'm going to use in all 3 clouds. I can't use Amazon Aurora either, and then try and tie that into an Azure service. No, but I can use an Oracle database in both, or a MySQL database in both. So most of what's covered in the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is the name of a proprietary service and how to configure that service, which is not what we do. So for the architect, after you pass the Certified Solution Architect Professional, what you need to do is learn BGP, OSPF, IP subnetting, supernetting, etc. Switching, which includes VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, WAN technologies such as IPsec tunnels, SSL VPNs, and trust me, this stuff isn't covered in the silly certs like the advanced networking. So you need more. And then when you're done that, you need to understand DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, etc. And the WAN technologies, etc. There's some of them on the networking side. Now on the data center side, here's what you're going to need to learn. You're going to need to learn servers and server virtualization and containers and container orchestration, storage, area and networks, etc., etc., etc. For example, so there's that. Then you need to, so in the block, object, file storage, then you're going to need to learn about databases, when to use a relational database, when to use a NoSQL database, how to scale them, caching, queuing, read replicas, etc. Then when you're done that, you need to understand big data to some degree and how it pops in there. You need to understand security appliances, and because you're not going to be using the stuff that's covered in the AWS Advanced Security or the Certified Solution Architect Professional. You're going to be using industrial grade solutions for most custom apps, which means going to the Cisco website, the Palo Alto website, the FlexNet, etc. Now that covers the technical knowledge. Now for the architect, nobody hires us for technical knowledge. They hire us for executive knowledge. Now if you're a reverend, chances are you're used to preaching and you're speaking in front of a large audience. Good, because that's going to be a much more valuable skill than the Certified Solution Architect Professional to get you a cloud architect job. It's about 1,000 times more valuable, actually. So make sure you can deliver a good presentation, which may be your skill set. Make sure you've got some leadership skills to be able to lead a team of engineers. Make sure you've got some sales skills, because you're going to be selling. And it's not like selling a car where you say, imagine how good you feel in this. It's going to be building a business case around something, which means you need business acumen. Because you're going to be saying, hey, you could buy this, which costs X, Y, Z dollars. The return on investment, meaning the value delivered to the business, is X, Y, Z dollars. So you need to be good with that. Now, you're going to have to negotiate. So you're going to need some negotiation skills, which you may already have. You're going to be doing a lot of writing. So you've got to have some executive writing skills. And those would be the skills that you need to do to get the cloud architect job. Now, the cloud engineer, the Certified Solution Architect Professional, instead of being 5% of what you need, is probably 15% of what the cloud engineer needs, because they're more hands-on. In addition to that, those networking data center things we talked about are still valuable to the cloud engineer, and you should know them. But the cloud engineer will need to learn how to code, because the cloud engineers will be doing coding. At minimum, they're going to need to know Python, coding, Bash scripting, etc. Now, the cloud engineer will also need to know Terraform. Note, I said engineer, not architect. And the cloud engineer needs to have strong Linux administration knowledge. So there you go. Now you know what you need to do post the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. For us, we put 500 hours of training in our cloud architect program, at least, and only 20 to 40 hours of it are dedicated to the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional and the Azure Expert. The rest of it's designed to learning how to become a cloud architect. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Those are what it takes to transition from being certified to being hired. Mostly non-tech skills, but also the network and data center skills. And here's the reason why. Let's imagine you had to make something. I'm Greek, so I like souvlaki. Let's say I was going to make a chicken souvlaki, which is chicken and olive oil and salt and pepper and oregano, a little lemon juice, delicious. Now, if I imagine an architect that didn't know what chicken was, what lemon juice was, what olive oil, salt, pepper, garlic, and oregano was, and then you said, cook a souvlaki, they couldn't do it. And what the cloud training does, the certification, is here's your name of the service and how to configure it. But if you don't know what that service is and how it works, you're not going to be able to do the architect job. Here's the architect job. Meet with the customer in their data center and take the stuff in a data center to the cloud. You can't move what you don't understand. And that's why certifications don't get people hired. But actual cloud architect knowledge does. So we've got a lot of free stuff on our channel that we can help you with. We also have a cloud architect career development program that can easily get you hired. We get people hired with it all the time. But now you know what to study with us or on your own. I just want you getting cloud hired. Absolutely. US lady here, former network engineer, 20 years, now consulting, kind of hate it. I understand that. I was a network engineer for a long time. I did a lot of consulting, but I loved it. You miss actually designing, building, and giving real input. You want to do cloud architect, you're going to be great. Understand you can't just get certified for these positions, but you can get them by getting used to the consulting. So if you've got a year's worth of management consulting, not tech consulting, but management consulting, that's great. What is an architect? It is a consultant. We go work for a company. We consult to the business executives. What is your business challenge? What are your competition doing? What does your balance sheet say? What does your financial statement say? What do industry analysts say? And what are you trying to do? What does a management consultant do? They ask those same questions because it's the same job. Now, afterwards in our job, we go back to the building, or we go, and now as a management consultant, we may watch what people do, talk to people in the organization. Now as a cloud architect, what do? Watch what people do. Exactly. And we bring in engineers to baseline the current systems. Same thing. Then what do we do as a management consultant? We think about what is the goal end state. What do we do as an architect? We think is what is the goal end state. Now for the management consultant, we take the goal end state and create a business architecture. For the cloud architect, we create a cloud architecture. Identical job. And absolute. Here's the thing. The reason people don't get hired is they train for engineering when they should be training for consulting. That's why. That's the big secret. Consulting, consulting, consulting. So if you are like a director level management consultant, you've got the skills right now already. If you need that more management consulting skills, like maybe if you don't have director level skills, we could happily teach you. But absolutely, this will be a great career for you. Network engineering, the cloud is basically a network with a data center. You already got half of it. And if you've got consulting, you're in a very good position. So you are in great shape. Learn the data center in addition to the network, and you got it all. But make sure you understand you're going to be at the C level here. So you're going to have to be CXO relevant, not director level relevant. So you may need a little upgrade on those management consulting skills, which we'd happily help you with. Or you could do some training on being more CXO relevant and getting practice grooming with an executive coach. Doesn't matter, but that's the secret. You'll be great. I love your background. And then, Chris, you can bring in the next one. Love that furry friend. Rosella Gold, any tips on studying for the Solution Architect Pro? Here's the good news, Rosella Gold. It is a very basic certification. So I want to put it into the context. When we taught our CCNA course, there were 2,000 pages of material in that CCNA. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, we were able to write a book and knock it down to 480 pages or something like that. So there's not that much that goes into the Certified Solution Architect Professional. So here's what you do. Read our book, which is included in our course. Or if you're not with us, you can get it for free. Do our AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate training, which is more like a professional. Do our completely free AWS Advanced Networking training. Again, super basic, but this is a basic exam. Next, read the AWS white papers. They take their exams out of the white papers. What are these certifications designed to do? Teach you how to sell AWS stuff. That's why they're very biased, etc. So, read the AWS white papers, which are designed to teach you how to sell and design the AWS stuff. Read the AWS well-architected framework. I think of my students, so come to class, and it'll be nothing for you to pass this, but do get a practice exam because AWS takes a very simple amount of knowledge and they ask questions very poorly and stupidly. That's the only way they can make this easy exam hard. So I'll give you another tip. When you get a test question, if you've got an answer that includes 50 AWS services, it's probably the right one because they're trying to figure out how do they make you sell the most stuff. So it's a very basic exam, very, very basic. But they make it hard with the way they ask the questions, but it's so basic. So do those things, Rosella, and you're going to be fine. It won't be any big deal. But make sure you learn the network and the data center. And here's the reason why. I remember I placed a bet with a co-author buddy of mine. And I said to him, we just wrote a book on passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. And he said, yeah. I said, I'm going to go take the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam tomorrow. And he said, what? I said, if you know one cloud, you know them all. And he laughed at me because, he was a young, really fine, smart, young 20-year-old. But I wrote a book with him because well, that's another story. I wrote a book with him. I'll tell you why I wrote the book in a minute. And with him. And here's the reason. So within 2 days, I passed the Google Cloud one. And the Google Cloud was the only cloud I never worked on. So the plain is it's really easy. Why did I write that book and give it away for free? I'm going to tell you right now. And why did I ever write a book with a 20-year-old? Because that's not something I would normally do. Here's the reason. I had set up a big blockchain data center in McPherson, Kansas, because we were using like 2 megawatts power and had some of the cheapest electric in the country. And the person who we got the data center from has said, Mike, you brought in a bunch of your interns. And oh my God, they're like rocket scientists. He said, my kid's ready to graduate with a computer science degree or computer engineering degree. You think you can prep him like the rest? By the way, Mike, what's hot in tech right now? And I said, cloud architecture. So here's what I did. I said to the father, I will spend 2 to 4 hours grooming him every Friday. And then I said, I will buy him the 3 top-selling certification courses. So I bought the 3 top-selling certification courses. You all know who they are. And within 3 days, this fine young man called me and he said, Michael, he said, I set up an EC2 instance S3 bucket. And he said, what is it? I mean, what do you mean, what is it? I said, I bought you 3 top-selling training courses. He said, they never explained what the tech was. It was too gibberish. And here's what I did. I watched those courses in horror. Here's the name of a service and how to configure it. And oh, by the way, you don't know what it is. That was horrible. I never saw such garbage training in my life. And that's why I wrote the book with the kid, stripped 10 pages out of our professional book, and gave it away free as a certified solution architect associate. And then after that, I decided to give the whole book away for free, and we made a revision 2 of it. So just read the book, read the white papers, follow as much of the free stuff as you can on our channel, get a practice exam, and this is a nothing exam. You're going to do great, Rosella. Just believe in you and don't quit. Now on the practice exam, make sure you get a 95 or greater, and then you're ready to take the exam, because even though it's a simple exam, the exam questions are asked so stupidly, they can make something that's so basic feel very complicated. So do that, and you'll be in great shape. Chris, we can go to the next one. Leverage on the strength of your team as a leader. Chandu, exactly, that is it. Mike, you've started your videos for a couple of days. Do you have any orientation prior to the Cloud Architect? Our people come straight from zero background and we get them hired. Yes, we do an orientation when people take the course, like once every 2 weeks, we have an orientation day. We assume our people know nothing. And here's the reason. Most people that come to us either have a programming background, no tech background, they're a medical professional, they're a career changer, they're a database person, they're an IM person. They've had every other job other than an architect. And the reality is since we architects design, present, and sell, and don't touch the tech, 99% of the people that have a tech background, we need to start at ground zero. The only people we don't have to start at ground zero are network engineers, network architects, and data center architects. And here's the reason why. The cloud is nothing more than a virtual network in the data center. So, we give you everything you need in our cloud architect career development program. It is self-paced, starting from the first assignment, which is a tell me about yourself video. Why is the first assignment a tell me about yourself video? Well, what's the first question that gets asked in most interviews? Tell me about yourself. From day one, we're grooming you for the interview. Not just that, when you tell us about yourself, we can see if you have executive presence. What's executive presence? Okay, BGP is a path vector routing protocol that uses TCP port 179. No executives listening to me. Now, BGP is a path vector routing protocol that uses TCP port 179. Whoa, said the same words, but I changed it, and you must know how to do that. So we're looking at that. And then we're going to give you guidance. Do this, do this, do this, do this, and you will be successful. So there's that. But no, all you have to do is come. We don't care what your background is. It all. And you'll be good to go. And we would love to work with you. We know how to work with people of all backgrounds. Again, I'm a medical professional first. And please join us completely tomorrow in our completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. BNHG, thanks for sharing your wealth and knowledge. Question: is a cloud architect undervalued if working for a small business? Most likely. Generally speaking, you don't want one of these jobs for a small business because they don't have the resources that they can pay in a big business. Having said that, in a small business, you get to know the executive team. If the small business grows and you grow with them, boy, do you have a future because you're going to be right at the top. So the cloud architect could be undervalued in a small company. But, being in a small company is kind of nice because you get treated with a lot of respect and dignity and love. And, there's that. So, and you can really make a difference in a small business. So I think it just depends on what you desire to do. But in a small business, you're not going to be doing the big projects because most people don't go to a small business and do $1 billion deal. They work directly with the vendor. But it's a great job. And I've worked in small businesses and big businesses. I liked both. I worked for a couple of mom and pop shops and I loved it. It was really well treated. At one point, I did leave a mom and pop job that I had to go to a big global organization. And let me tell you, I got paid more, but I wasn't happier. So, BNHG, it depends on what you're motivated by. If you're motivated by money, well, then I got to tell you, go to a big company. And also, don't go to a company with pay transparency. And here's why. They try to pay people almost all the same thing. If you're really looking for money, go to a company where they want the best. Be the best. And then you'll get paid a lot more. You'll be rewarded for your company, for your work. Here's why. Some companies decide to pay everybody the same. Here, you're all equal. And then other companies are like, look, let me pay more to the people. And in a small business, let me tell you, you will be paid more based upon your value. So let's think about who do you pay. I got a cloud architect here. This is a Mr. or Mrs. Techie. They're the tech guru. They go to the customer. They know everything. And the customer never wants to buy anything they have to say because their speaking isn't good. Or now I've got someone that's got half of the tech skills, but better business acumen, leadership skills, emotional intelligence, sales skills, etc. And now you close $1 billion deal. Can that company pay you $2 million a year? Of course they can. They can pay you anything they want because you're bringing in money. So keep that in the back of your mind as well. Smaller businesses are less regulated, which means they can afford to pay you for your performance in a way that's different than big companies. So good and bad with small companies, big companies. I like both. I've worked in both. Got good things to say about both. Great question, BNHG. Robbie, what's the difference between a normal cloud and a telco cloud? Nothing. The knowledge gained in cloud architecture course is useful. Ravi, all clouds are the same. Every one of my students designs and builds their own cloud from scratch. What's a telco cloud? Well, it's one of two things. Either the phone company is reselling AWS services, or they do what everybody does, and they set up an OpenStack cloud. Now, Ravi, I'm going to tell you, half of your customers are going to be running a cloud in their data center. It's going to be a Nutanix cloud or an OpenStack cloud. And yes, you must know these things. You must know how to build a cloud, and you must know how to deal with multi-cloud environments. That's why certification like the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional will never get anybody any job on its own, because it only teaches you the name of the service and how to configure that. But you need to know how this stuff works to design it. That's the reason why. You need to know how the stuff works to design it. So, of course we teach these things, because you can't be a working cloud architect without it. You have to. You have to know how to design and build a cloud. You have to know how to walk into your customer and say, okay, we're going to turn you into an OpenStack cloud here. We're going to connect your OpenStack cloud to the AWS and the Azure cloud. We're going to be using all these interoperable services, and you're going to, of course you do. And of course we teach that. We couldn't run a cloud architect program and not teach people how to build and design clouds. That would be a certification course, and certification courses don't get people hired. Nordic courses where people learn Python and DevOps when they want to be an architect, because it's somebody else's job. So of course we teach that, how to build a cloud. And yes, we've got lots of people building their own clouds. We run our own cloud at Go Cloud Careers. I don't use AWS. Look, AWS is great. I spec my cost on AWS. They wanted $10,000 a month to run our systems. I spent $11,000 on the servers, and I have the same cloud that they wanted $10,000 a month. It'd be insane to use a public cloud when I can build my private cloud. Now, having said that, if I was not one of the first CCIEs, and I had to pay $300,000 a year to a good CCIE, and I didn't have a house full of Cisco networking gear and a house full of cheap servers, then guess what? It might be cheaper to use the cloud. But lots of businesses have tech, and there's not a business I know that doesn't want to run a Nutanix or an OpenStack cloud, especially once you talk to them. So yes, we teach that as well, as we have to. Nobody's getting hired without those skills. Chris, you can go to the next one. Oh, bless you, sir. Thank you. Yes, I'm doing business consulting. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Does application development? No, we architects don't do any development. None. We design, present, and sell. So the identical job you're doing as a management consultant. The same thing. Design, present, and sell. You know who does application development? Software engineers. But we're not engineers, we're architects. Oh, you're saying doing application. I guess you're consulting on other people that are doing applications. Yeah, we would have to get you speaking to C-level executives. You may need some grooming. And if so, we can easily help you. Now, the kind of grooming for you could either be our Tech Career Accelerator program, which is all CXO level grooming, or it could be our Cloud Architect Career Development Program where we teach you the architecture skills, which would probably be better, but either one should work for you in your particular case, because you've got 20 years of networking and you're already doing some management consulting. Hi, Mike. I love your channel. I have a good networking foundation. Good, but you're new to the cloud. Recently, you applied to your solution architect. What position would you apply? So tell me, what is your networking foundation? Because I don't know what good networking foundation is. Do you design systems? Are you working as a network architect? Meaning, can you set up a WAN of 5,000 locations? Do you know how to do the route aggregation, the route summarization? Do you know how to do MPLS traffic engineering, RSVP signaling? So is that your level of knowledge how to design it? Or are you doing config T, int G0/0, IP address 192.168.0.1, mask 255.255.255.0, no shut, because that's a totally different job. And that job is there. So I don't know what your good networking foundation is. What does that mean? Are you working in networking or do you have a networking certification? So explain that to me and I'll be able to help you. But realize that a rule of just certifications alone, there's no positions I'm going to recommend you apply for without knowing what job you want and give you the skills for it. But tell me what you've done in networking, what that actually means. Actually means. And then I can help you. It's too subjective. I need some specifics. Chris, let's go to the next one. What were your most memorable overcoming mental toughness moments when coming to the Clad Connect? What affirmations do you use? So, Miss Lemon Jamin, I don't use any affirmations ever. I find the people that focused on affirmations don't get to their goals. I focus on hardcore fight, 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 fight. So, mental toughness. Now, being a cloud architect was nothing for me because I've been a network architect prior. So I'll talk about my networking journey. So when I wanted to go to networking, I did the following. First thing I did was I called my local computer school because I thought that was going to get me hired, right? And I took this 5-day, $5,000 MCSE boot camp. In the end, nobody cared out of it at all, even though it cost me $5,000 back, 25 years ago. So then I locked myself in a room for 4 days and passed the CCNA exam. Then I took this 10-day, $11,000 CCNP boot camp. It was like 14 hours a day. And we covered about 10,000 pages of reading inside of these 11 days. And we did a bunch of labs. Guess what? Nobody cared because it was just a silly certification. And then, when I was done that, I studied the Cisco Certified Design Associate, locked myself in a room for about 3 days, locked myself in a room for 10 more days, didn't leave the room for anything other than to say hi to my wife, had to eat, and to sleep for 4 hours a day. And then I passed that Cisco Certified Design Professional. Now, here's what I found at the end of it. No one cared because nobody hires you based on certifications. So what I did then at that point, and this is where the mental toughness came in, was as follows. First thing I did was I called the recruiter, and the recruiter spent 45 minutes on the phone with me and told me what I needed to do to be hired. I then called 50 more recruiters, total of 50. Sent a $100 gift to each one. It cost me $5,000, 25 years ago, but I had a master list of what it took to be hired. And I locked myself in a room. So I worked in those days from 7 a.m., seeing patients in the office. I'd finish the office around 3:30. I would do rounds at the hospital until 5 or 6. And when I got home, I would study from 6 to 1 o'clock in the morning, every day for about 3 months. And then when I took that first job, Miss Lemon and gentlemen, I read 1,000 pages a day, every day for the first 6 months and became a CCIE. So there was that. So for me, I didn't have time to go out. I didn't have time to talk to friends. I didn't watch TV or do anything for about 9 months straight. All I did was study, study, study. But I wouldn't consider that mental toughness. I consider that some of the easier things in my life. What was the biggest mental toughness challenge for me? And I'm going to tell you what I did instead of positive affirmations. I was involved in a martial arts accident which caused me to be unable to walk. I have something called reflex sympathetic dystrophy, which is considered to be the most painful condition in the world. They call it the suicide condition because most of the people commit suicide with it. I have reflex sympathetic dystrophy. I also have 5 herniated discs. I also have 2 torn rotator cuffs. I also have labral tears in both hips and arthritis that's so bad that I need joint replacements in both knees and hips, but they can't do it because I have RSD. That's my normal day. I'm going to tell you that for a period, and after this injury, I couldn't walk at all. So I'm going to tell you that for a period of about 7 years, I did between 6 and 8 hours of physical therapy per day. I found some physical therapists that were willing to work with me, and I did that. Now, when I was done, while I was doing that, I also had subscribed to some training from Navy SEALs on mental toughness training. And they taught you how to fight in through pain. So I learned how to, meditate through pain, how to control pain through breathing. But, I didn't do it the way when I go to a yoga class and they say peace, love, and joy. And look, I'm a yoga instructor. I'm a 500-hour yoga instructor, and I've been practicing and teaching yoga for over 16 years. So yoga is my background. But I took training from SEALs. I'm not joking. Commander Mark Devine. I took his mental toughness training, which taught me how to fight harder. So instead of saying positive affirmations like I can do it, it was, I will conquer, I will conquer, I will conquer. And when I'd be in physical therapy and I'd be sweating through pain, I'd say, easy day, embrace the suck, let's have some fun with it. So I live in these communities where people have affirmations and they come up with their vision boards. I've never seen those people successful. I wish I could, but I don't. So my version of mental toughness is fight, and never quit. So I use my martial arts skills. I've had special training from some of the most elite martial artists in the world. I've had training from people that have come from every branch of the elite military forces. And that's what I come from. So I'm going to tell you right now, Miss Lemon, Gemma, that every day when I wake up, it takes me 3 hours to walk down the stairs of my house. I have to literally bring each joint through a full range of motion. Then I have to do some other joint mobility exercises, some stretching exercises. Then I crawl down the stairs of my house and I jump in a room which is preheated to 130 degrees. I do yoga in that room because the temperature opens up the blood vessels and makes the pain hurt less. And then I jump into 159 degree sauna and finish my stretching routine just before breakfast. In fact, I had to do that long before I spoke to any one of you guys today. So that's my normal day of mental toughness. So here's the thing. The one affirmation I will give you is easy day. I learned it from some Navy SEALs. Because in the Navy, they say, for the SEALs, they say the only easy day was yesterday. So when it's hard and you got a headache and you're sweating and you're bleeding, easy day. That's the closest I get to an affirmation. But otherwise, it's like conquer. Because life's a fight. It's a battle. It's a war. And when you interview for a job, you are in battle with your competition. Fight to win. Fight to win. So I've got about 20 to 30 years of martial arts background. I use that in everything that I do. Fight to win. And I fight for my students to win more than you know. Actually, I know you know. You really love networking. Is there a network architect? Yeah, there's a network architect. I worked as one for decades. What do you want to do if that's the case? Well, you're going to need networking knowledge. Now, networking knowledge does not mean configure. Network architecture means how to design. So you will need to master BGP. You will need to master OSPF. You will need to master intermediate systems to intermediate systems, the old CMLNS routing protocols. We use it all the time. You will need to master QoS and rate limiting, etc. You will need to master IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting. You will need to master switching and spanning tree. You will need to master MPLS. In today's world, you will need to master software-defined networking, etc. Now, that's the tech part of it, Serge. The second part of the architect program is you need to be an executive because you're going to be at the C-level executives designing, presenting, and selling your solutions. You're going to be writing white papers and thought leadership papers. So you must, and either you get the kind of training we provide in our Tech Career Accelerator or our Clad Architect Career Development Training program from the leadership perspective, you must learn how to do some ROI modeling to convince the customer the value of the solution is much greater than its cost, much greater. You will need to be able to present to C-level executives, which means you need to study CXO relevancy. And when I was a network architect working for Cisco, it took about $250,000 of education in these things. And that's one of the things that I teach to my students because it's there. What to say to the CEO versus the CFO versus the CTO versus the CIO. Next, you will need to learn how to sell. Next, you will learn how to build a business case. Next, you will learn how to respond to requests for information, requests for proposals, requests for queries. You will need to be learning how to deliver presentations in front of large global audiences because the network architect you're going to be doing constantly. You'll be presenting at conferences, You're going to be writing thought leadership papers. So this is a 50% executive, 50% tech job. So you need these MBA skills no matter what you do. We could teach them to you, or you can learn them or get an MBA. And then you need to learn those networking skills. And let me tell you, Serge, it's the best job ever. I mean, I got paid more to be a network architect than I did in internal medicine by a couple of 100% more. And it was a great job, and I loved it. Spent a decade at Cisco as a network architect, worked on Wall Street as a network architect, worked for Riverstone Networks as a network architect. I loved every last minute of it, and it was a fantastic job. Oh, wait, there's a cloud network architect, which is the same job. And you know what a cloud architect is? Essentially a network architect that knows the data center. So yeah, great career with lots and lots of potential. Love it, Serge. Do it. It's fantastic. How many cloud architects does a Fortune company need? Oh, a lot. So, a bank might have 20 architects. More. So the key is, what kind of transformation is the company doing? That will determine the number of architects that they need. If they're a company that doesn't want to do any transformation, they don't need a lot of architects. But VNHG, just think about this. The competitive advantage provided by an architect, a good architect that knows digital transformation, can make a business a winner versus a loser. So some companies invest heavily in technology. I want you to think of this. If you were going to build an algorithmic trading system for a bank right now, because I've worked on these, and the way these algorithmic trading programs is, they get financial feeds, a piece of news, and they buy something. So let's say VNHG right now, AWS, who lost $3.38 billion last quarter, posts that they gained and earned $100 billion this quarter. Whoa, right, here's the $3 billion left. Here's what would happen. Instantly, as soon as they announced that to the street, everybody would try and buy the stock. And as people buy the stock, the price would go up. So if you could build a system that in particular would process a trade a nanosecond, yes, I said a nanosecond, then a nanosecond faster, then that could be billions or trillions of dollars a year for a big bank based on how many processes. Now think about that. If you're building systems that need to be a nanosecond faster than the competition, you might need 100 architects. So it really is going to be based upon how much technology that business needs. How many architects do you think Facebook needs? How many thousands? Keep it in the back of your mind. It's based upon what the technology uses. Your next question, how are networking skills helping cloud architecture? Well, the cloud is a network and a data center. So if you don't know networking, you can't work on the cloud. You just can't. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. No networking, no cloud job, unless you want to be a software engineer. Jay Don, I got the program about 2 months ago, but plan to start weak. Did you say $2 million a year if you can close $1 billion a year? Why not? You can get as much money as you desire. Look, I know sales reps that, I remember there was one company that sold storage. And here's the thing, Jay Don, the company would give monthly commission checks. Now, when the company was giving monthly commission checks, they couldn't put more than $100,000 in a single check. So the sales reps in this company used to get together every month and compare, I got 3 checks. Did you get 2 checks or 4 checks? To see who got more checks. Now, if somebody got 3 checks, that meant $300,000 for the month. So yes, I know lots of people in networking and cloud that make a tremendous amount of money. But they're all-stars, and they play to win, and they fight to win, and they never quit. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind that yes, absolutely, you can earn a lot of money if you close a lot of deals, especially anytime you're in sales. I even know back-end engineers that were BGP experts that were earning $500,000 a year. It's not common, but it depends on how good you are and how valuable you are to the company. But I'm going to tell you right now, you want to go from $100,000 a year to 300 or 400 or 500? I can tell you right now, that has nothing to do with your technical knowledge at all. Zero. In fact, 20 years ago, I had a manager pull me in his office. Here's the reason he pulled me in his office. I fell asleep in a CISSP boot camp that was held on the company's site, because to determine I needed to be a CISSP, so 5 days later I was one, because they put us all in this class and we all had to take it. We were all CISSP. And when I fell asleep, my manager pulls me aside and he says, Mike, can we talk? I'm like, yeah. He says, first, here's a bonus of where it's called capital work. We're doing a good job. And then he says, Mike, you're not like the rest of these people. And I'm getting a little nervous now. I'm like, how so? And he says, look, well, the other people want to go in the office and talk acronym, that it sounds like a bunch of buzzwords are strung together. He says, you go to the customer site each day. You entertain clients, you lead. And he said, do you know the difference between a $150,000 engineer and a $300,000 architect? This was 20 years ago. I was like, tell me. And he says, it's the impact you make to an organization. So stop getting certified. Yes, I know I forced you to do this, CISSP, but you've done this. Stop studying tech. Instead, study leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence. Learn how to do some ROI modeling. Increase your gravitas. A year later, now granted, I have a $250,000 education in this. I had that higher salary. That was 20 years ago. So the point is, and I retired at 34, and I came out of retirement for one reason only. I saw the garbage that was out there from the certification providers, and I had to save the community. And I've gotten so many people hired in the last year since I decided to come out of retirement. Look, I've always coached people. Even in my retirement, I've coached people for 20 years, but that's why I did it. And yes, you can do great, but it's the impact you make to the organization. If every other architect's closing, $10 million a year, $20 million or $50 million, and you're closing $1 billion, yeah, they can pay you a lot more. And the cloud architects are the copy, plug, pre-sales? Of course there is. I couldn't get people hired if you didn't. As design is the only job of an architect. We design, present, and sell. Of course we do. It wouldn't be an architect course without it. It would be a techie course, which would not be an architect. So Ravi, of course we do. We have to cover how to sell. It's essential. What's covered in our course is everything you need to become hired. And that's part of it. Chris, you can go to the next one. Rosella, here's the difference going from 150 to 300 or more. Business acumen, leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, etc. That's the difference between, and it always has been, between a technical architect and an expert architect that gets paid more. Now, if you specialize, you'll get more. For example, who do you think is more valuable designing a system for healthcare? Me, as someone that can practice internal medicine, who was a nurse before that, or as someone that never walked in a hospital in their life? So yeah, imagine someone that was an airline captain for Delta Airlines or American Airlines or who's that? Or Emirates Airlines. What an airline to fly, by the way. But that's neither here nor there. So let's say I was an airline captain for Emirates Airlines and I had an MBA and all of a sudden I wanted to be a cloud architect. That pilot who then wants to work in the transportation industry will be wonderful and do great. So yeah, that's a specialty. I generally prefer to specialize on an industry, but you can also specialize in security or networking. Either case, it'll bump up your salary. Experts always get paid more than generalists. But it's really about your leadership skills, sales skills, presence, etc. Chris, you can go to the next one. And it's a great question, Rosella. Podcast. Mike, you suggest CCNA cloud certs and then Linux certs. I don't suggest any certs ever. I suggest figure out the job that you want, and then we figure out the skills and certifications you need. So if you tell me your goal career, then I can tell you which certifications to do. But what I'm not ever going to do, and here's this reason, is just recommend certifications like a certification provider. And here's the reason why. There's some really bad certification providers. And the reason I say bad is they want to sell courses. And they say, in order to get to a certified solution architect professional, you must take a DevOps course, a SysOps course, a developer associate course, and then a solution architect course. And the person spends a year and a half passing all these certifications. And then they want to be hired as an architect, and nobody will hire them. And here's the reason. They look like a software engineer, a maintenance person, and not an architect. And then in order to get that person hired, you know what we have to do? We have to remove the irrelevant, stupid certifications from the resume from somebody else's career and redo the resume, and then they get hired. So we need to know exactly the career you want. Oh, okay, you want to be a network engineer. Well, Microsoft doesn't have network engineers except for the people that build them. Microsoft is software, networking is routing and switching. So if you want to be a network engineer, I'd start with the Cisco Certified Network Associate certification. Then I would get the Cisco Certified Network Professional. No, I would not study Linux because that's sysadmin, which is somebody else's job. Now, in today's world, network engineers also know some Python. But here's the thing, CCNA, CCNP, and around that CCNP level, you're starting to become hireable. If you really want to progress your network engineering career, you need CCIE skills. Now, it doesn't have to be a CCIE certification, but you need CCIE skills. But as a rule, minimum entry level in my mind is CCNP. And I don't love certifications, but I do like the Cisco Certified Network Professional, and here's the reason why. It takes some knowledge to pass it. It's not like an AWS exam where you can just buy a practice test and pass it, and they're only testing you on the name of a service and how to configure it. In the CCNP level, they do cover, how do you design to some degree, how do you build a core access distribution, route redistribution, route summarization. So at the CCNP level, you'll be there. So that's what I would do, CCNA, CCNP, do our CCNA training, and here's the reason why. I've taught thousands of network engineers, and I taught it to I used to teach networking and architecture to engineers and architects at Cisco too. So you're getting real training there from a Cisco employee who's one of the first Cisco certified internet experts in the world. Now, most people know that I view the CCIE as entry level because that's where I started to get enough basics to start to work on projects where I learned. But I will tell you, the network engineer is one of the greatest. I love it. You will have fun with it. It will pay you well, and it is an exceptionally good career. Love it. Here's the thing, almost nobody understands networking. So if you do, boy, you can write your own ticket. Probably do one or two more, Chris. But before I do, if you're trying to get hired or you want to build your career, we've extended our 30% 4th of July discount. Sign up now. I mean, we run the course. It's a $50,000 course that we basically sell right now on sale for $700. It's kind of a charitable mission of mine. I want to get the world hired, or else we would charge what we should. But I'm doing this to get the global world hired. And me and my team do everything we can to help people get hired. Chris, you go to the next one. Ravi, in the view of digital transformation, what's the difference between an enterprise architect, cloud architect, and a solution architect? Here's the thing. A solution architect is a dead career unless you work for a cloud provider. A solution architect only knows a single vendor's equipment. Now, given that 87% of companies use more than one cloud, the solution architect career is dead. Everybody needs a cloud architect. So what's a cloud architect versus an enterprise architect? The same thing. Now, what does an enterprise architect do? There's a little difference. I'll tell you this little difference. An enterprise architect like me gets typically paid a lot more than the cloud architect, and here's the reason why. An enterprise architect designs an end-to-end solution. What's a cloud architect do? Designs an end-to-end solution. Now, the cloud architect is 50% technical and 50% executive. The enterprise architect is 80% executive, 70 to 80% executive, and 20 to 30% technical. And because of that, it can pay 30 to 50% more. Most people will need to work as a cloud architect, build their business acumen, sales skills, and leadership skills, and get an enterprise architect job next. Although some people have gotten enterprise architect jobs straight out of my program, but it's usually cloud architect job. That's the difference. All we do for all these jobs is design, present, and sell. But a solution architect works for AWS or Azure, and they design, present, and sell only Azure stuff. A cloud architect would design a solution that's like, let me connect you to Azure, AWS, and your OpenStack cloud, which means they're paid more and they're eminently more employable because they know more than one cloud. An enterprise architect is when you become you start to get gray hairs like me or start losing your hairs like me, and you've been designing systems for people and you're known as a business expert, then you're an enterprise architect. And of course, you get paid more, but you get further and further away from the tech. In fact, the closer you are to the tech, the lower your pay is going to be. The more you are, closer you are to the executives, the higher your pay is going to be. So think of it this way. Next time you think about that 80th certification, realize it's going to lower your salary. But business transformation, leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, that's what's going to rise you to the top. Okay, I can't answer any more questions today because we have the free Azure Expert Bootcamp that's coming at noon, and me and my team need to prepare for it. But I will be back answering your questions on Friday and tomorrow. Join me on Zoom. Why Zoom? So we can all talk. Join me for the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. Please join me. I will tell you everything you need to get your first cloud architect job. It's completely free and it will be fun. Next week, especially all of you, but anybody that loves networking, we're running a BGP and a subnetting workshop next week. Sign up. It's completely free. And the week after that, we're going to do a completely free AWS Solution Architect Associate course. And we start at the beginning and we go much deeper than that. So it's going to be a wonderful free class for you. So please sign up for that. And it's been an honor and a privilege to spend the morning with you guys. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and we will talk to you soon.